So let's start with the rapid fire.
Okay.
At what age do you want to retire?
67.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
About 8 minutes.
The most embarrassing moment of your life?
When someone threw up during an interview.
Favorite color?
Gray.
What time of day are you most inspired?
Duck.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Outfit.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming technology trend is blank.
Pass.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
I have to say Ithaca because that's the first place I kissed my husband.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk.
Zuck.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Not quitting a job I didn't like soon enough.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Clarity.
How do you relax?
Sleeping and doing Pilates.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0, but you didn't ask me about Diet Coke.
A habit of yours that you hate.
See my earlier note about Diet Coke.
Your favorite Netflix show.
Right now, Jewish Matchmaker.
Okay. The last movie that had a good impression on you.
Yay. Don't Look Up.
The last song you've been listening to.
Oh. Anything from Beyonce.
Okay. All right, well, that's the end of the rapid fire. So now we're going to move on to the longer questions. The first one is...
Like, I can't think of the name of any song.
that happens. So the first one is, as someone who has operated successfully in both consumer and financial services, what drives your passion for bridging these two industries together?
I've always been a student of behavioral economics, and I actually feel that the way people spend, save, and invest is actually the purest expression of their values in some ways. And so bringing together consumer platforms, technology, and financial services, to me, is actually the key to unlocking long-term economic security for most consumers.
Okay, and do you think behavioral economics is playing more and more role in the modern market?
Yeah, I think behavioral economics has always sort of been operating below the surface, but now that it's become really a known and well understood field of study, I think people are using it smartly to actually put nudges in place in ways that make most sense for consumers. But I also think for many, many years, people thought consumers were hard to predict. And what I would say is that they are not always conventional, but if you study them long enough over longer periods of time, the patterns actually really start to emerge.
Could you elaborate on Stash's subscription platform and how it aligns with the financial well-being of everyday Americans?
Yeah. The great thing about operating a subscription business in the fintech sector is that it gives us kind of the wild luxury of being in violent alignment with our consumer, because all we want to do is put as much value into the subscription as possible, because that's why people stick with us over the long haul. So we are less susceptible to market volatility and things like interest rate risk, but it also means we never have an incentive to push our customers into transactions that don't make sense for them.
So what specific features or benefits does Stash's subscription platform offer to enhance the financial well-being of its users?
So our platform offers subscriptions at 2 different levels, and some of that mirrors people's different life stages. Like in our one tier, we've got custodial accounts, which makes sense if you have kids, but obviously is less relevant if you don't. We also add features at our higher tier for different levels of spend and investing. And those are really designed so as your confidence and capabilities as an investor grow, we can add more feature functionality that matches that level of sophistication.
So having worked both as an operator and an investor, How do you find the experience of being an operator and working closely with founders to be uniquely rewarding?
I mean, there's nothing actually quite as satisfying as sort of having a thought, having a discussion, and then putting it out into the world in a way that actually can positively impact consumers. That's actually what I love about operating, and it's the magic about working with founders, because there's a certain kind of special kind of delightful mania that exists among founders that says, like, I alone or we alone can uniquely bring this thing into existence. And the thing that is incredible is often that is exactly the case.
And so how do you leverage your experiences as an operator and investor to support and guide founders in achieving their goals?
I mean, the most important thing that I can do, or that anyone could do really, to help founders and others achieve their goals and sort of bring these fantastic ideas into life, is help by counseling the gift of clarity that is really focused on the end purpose you're trying to achieve. For us at Stash, our mission to help millions of consumers achieve economic security is one that is so motivating for our founders, for our whole executive team, for every person who works in the business. And it's sort of the North Star we keep in mind on everything from product development to tech to comms, even to how we interact with our regulators.
So speaking of all of that, can you discuss the significance of combining your experiences in consumer finance, asset management, and high growth startups in preparing you for your role as CEO of Stash?
Yeah, I mean, the really funny thing is when I actually detail my past experiences and kind of the interesting, twisty route I've taken working at venture-backed startups, large corporates, enterprise-focused businesses, consumer businesses, credit businesses, trading businesses, I realized that all of those choices only make sense if you know I end up at Stash, because it was as if I were collecting a portfolio of experiences that would sort of uniquely prepare me to really capitalize on the amazing platform we built at Stash.
And so how do all these diverse experiences contribute to your decision-making process as the CEO of Stash?
I think it gives me a lens on how to think about what matters to the consumer first. I've often felt that many companies pay lip service to being consumer-centric. And in fact, I actually think they believe they are consumer-centric, but there's fundamentally a pretty big difference between solving for operational efficiency first and then figuring out how to make that as painless as possible for the consumer. And what I really have tried to do, bringing all those experiences together, is solve for the consumer first and then figure out how to make that as operationally efficient as possible. I think that collection of experiences both gave me that perspective, but also the tools to know how to do that.
So moving a bit to the product side then. So as a CEO, how do you approach your involvement in the product side of the business? And what aspects of it do you find particularly enjoyable?
Well, look, I go to sleep every night and I wake up every morning thinking about our North Star, which is this low and middle income consumer that, let's face it, has had a rough couple of years and it's just emerging into a more optimistic frame of mind. And so I sort of see my job first and foremost is to make sure that the incredibly talented people we've hired and put in roles on our product team also have that North Star in mind every day when they're designing and building products.
So can you share an example of a product-related decision or strategy that you found particularly rewarding or impactful, or that makes for a nice story?
Sure. You can be a lot to play with there. I actually share a decision that was made by our product team at Stash before I joined, because when I think about how reinforcing it is of our mission and how strategically important it is both for the company and for our consumers, and that is the creation of our stock back program. So we have a debit card that we issue to consumers who keep cash on the platform. Very few debit cards in general offer any kind of rewards, but those that do typically offer cash back or sort of reward points in some fashion. Our platform, because it's focused on investing and access to this asset class as a great unlock of long-term economic stability, actually offers stock back. So when you buy your groceries, when you buy gas, when you sort of spend any money you're keeping on the platform, we actually give you stock back in the form of fractional shares in the companies where you shop. And it's just an incredible reinforcing mechanism that says, just by spending the money you would normally spend, you're contributing to your long-term economic security.
So this is something that happened before you joined, you said?
Yeah.
But is there anything that you want to discuss, any specific initiatives or strategies you have in mind to enhance the overall user experience and engagement on the Stash platform going forward?
Yeah. One of the things we're doing right now is super unsexy, but incredibly important. We are in the process right now of going through something that we call the onboarding revolution, where we are dramatically skinnying down the experience to sort of onboard and activate onto the platform, taking it from literally multiple dozens of screens, which is sort of par for the course in our industry, down to something really simple and sub 10 for onboarding, as an example. We think the process of kind of becoming an investor should be as simple as possible. We want to make sure that first experience you have, particularly for novice investors, reflects the simplicity and clarity that we think is so critical in the platform.
And so how does Stash prioritize user feedback and incorporate it into these development of new initiatives and strategies?
Yeah. I mean, the good news when you operate a consumer platform is that you have so many sources of consumer feedback. There's obviously research that we do directly with our customers and with prospects. There is feedback they give us in our call centers. There's feedback they give us in the online forums we maintain for them. There's feedback they give us in forums they create for themselves. And so what we try and do very broadly is look at a combination of both the structured and unstructured data we collect, look at the volumes of feedback we get in any category and the depth of impacts that feedback might have on either solving a consumer problem or addressing an opportunity we see. And we basically just rack them and stack them, meaning we prioritize them by impact and scale, and then we methodically plow through them. And the great news is not only does it allow us to sort of continue to have a living and breathing platform and product, but it also means we're kind of constantly in touch and being responsive and anticipatory of our consumers' needs.
All right. Last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this right now?
I would be a chef. I love cooking, although I worry sometimes that being a chef would ruin cooking for me based on what I've seen on the bag.